We are back, and as I mentioned before we went to break, we have tracked down Mr. Todd Russell. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Susie, and how are you?
Very good, and I wanted to be clear that we were interested in speaking to you, and you're good enough to give us some of your time. So this is a dicey situation we're dealing with. Obviously, it's a tense, and it was a tense situation the other day. But right now we have Mr. Jim Learning, who's not in a great spot, and perhaps we are rightly afraid for his health. How's he doing?
Well, I've had an opportunity to visit Jim, Mr. Learning, on 2 occasions. I visited him on Saturday, and I had an opportunity to visit with him this morning for a short period of time, and I was accompanied by his partner, Roberta Benefiel, who you and some of your listeners might also be familiar with. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective, I can tell you that I saw a difference in Mr. Learning in the couple of days since my last visit. He is a strong man, a man of small stature, but physically and mentally he is a strong person. But I saw a difference in him. No doubt it's not easy when you're remanded or you're in custody in a correctional center. He is on a hunger strike. He is in segregation. He is in a orange jumper suit, and he has not consumed any food for now 4 days.
Yeah, the story I read said he's taking some juice, but no food. This is not good for anybody. Obviously, much worse for somebody who's battling cancer, as Mr. Learning is. If they were to waive his need to sign this piece of paper that he apparently has to, would he be satisfied and leave?
Well, Jim, of course, is a man of great conviction. He believes firmly in his Aboriginal rights. He feels that he has been wronged, that he is not a criminal. When he was arrested in December, he was walking over a so-called Nalcor access road to the Muskrat Falls site with a pack sack accompanied by 2 other elders. They were going to set a few traps and have a boil-up, doing what he has done for many, many years and what his ancestors has done for generations. And at that time, he was arrested and he was released on condition. On Friday past, he was participating as any Canadian citizen would in defense of their rights, and in our particular case, our Aboriginal rights, and for that he was again arrested. And they wanted him to sign another undertaking, and in speaking with Jim, he felt that in all good conscience he could not do that. He wanted to continue to practice his Aboriginal rights. He wanted to make sure that he could continue to exercise his rights as a Canadian citizen in terms of protesting and defending those Aboriginal rights. And for that, the judge remanded him to the correctional center. We'll have to see what will happen on Friday when he reappears in court at that particular time. Mm-hmm.
Now, I think I've heard you say in another conversation that you feel the authorities were quick to act in this situation when they arrested you and the others. That in other situations in the past, they have tolerated the kind of activity that you were participating in, but this time they were, quick to decide to arrest you and drag you all off and put you in jail. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's certainly one that we have posed ourselves. Listeners to understand one thing, and I mean this very sincerely, from the heart, but also I want people to understand it in an intellectual fashion as well. That that we are at home, that we are Aboriginal people, and we have Aboriginal rights. And I say to people throughout the country and in our own communities, if we don't have these rights to this land, who does? It can't be 48 people in the House of Assembly or 308 people in the House of Commons. These rights are real, and they're manifested in us. And so the actions that we take in defense of those Aboriginal rights and in the protection of our lands are fundamentally true and upheld by the laws of this country. And when we protested on Friday, we protested with that deep belief and understanding. And what we did on Friday was assemble, yes, on a roadway at an intersection of the Trans-Labrador Highway. We were slowing traffic. There is no doubt about that. Some people might say, well, you were blocking it. We were not blocking it. We were impeding it to a certain extent. We were slowing it down. But there was no road blockage at that particular time. And this is an underground activity that we have done ourselves before. But it's one that's been done across the country, as you've said in your question, by many, many groups in many different jurisdictions. Some of the protests of a similar nature across the country have taken place over days and indeed weeks where rail lines were blocked, where people were escorted off a train and onto a bus. It happened in major cities like Winnipeg where roadways were shut down, actually blockaded for days, and there were no arrests. And so we ask ourselves, what is different in this jurisdiction? What was different about Friday that the cops, after just 3 hours of a peaceful protest, and they will tell you it was peaceful, and they will tell you that it was orderly, and they commended us on this throughout the underground action. Why did they move? I can only surmise that there's two possibilities. One, they were acting in a very discriminatory way and applying a different enforcement protocol for us as opposed to what was being employed across the country. That's one. And I would think that comes back to the nature of this development. There's a lot of money at stake, reputation at stake, and so they have a different enforcement protocol here, specifically because of the nature of Muskrat Falls and the development.
Well, there's no doubt there is there's a pressure, I suppose, by the timing, by the time lost. There were whether or not you were impeding or stopping. I mean, there were vehicles lined up. They say, I don't know if this is true or not, but for about a kilometer in one direction or whatnot. But in any event, there is a pressure to continue on schedule and not fall behind, and that could very well be behind the results of the police action.
And that may be the case, but that does not take away the fact that we have a right to protest and assemble. The only other scenario that I can think of is that the order came from the political apparatus within the province that said to the RCMP, there is a court injunction in place. This project has to go ahead, remove those people.
Right.
Shut this down now. So, in my view, the RCMP may have moved swiftly and in the fashion that they did, either in a discriminatory way or as a result of political pressure. And the law is not supposed to react in that particular fashion. They are supposed to provide balance because they are supposed to protect my rights as well as everybody else's rights in this particular situation. Okay. And so we are looking into our options around why the RCMP moved so quickly. We need some answers on that.
Okay. Mr. Russell, we do have to slip away very quickly here now, but I did want to ask you before we, and then I will give you a little time to summarize, but I wanted to ask you while I have the chance if you are considering in any way or have any interest in the Liberal nomination for the provincial seat that Yvonne Jones just vacated.
That's the furthest from my mind.
Okay.
I've made my decision. I am proud to lead the people of NunatuKavut.
You don't see it as another way to serve that cause or to serve those people?
Absolutely not. If I would have thought that our cause and the cause of Labrador people generally could have been served better within the traditional, so to speak, political structure, whether as a member of Parliament or as an MHA, I would have made that decision a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But my decision is to stay here. I believe that we can affect change, and I believe that the people have power. And when it comes to us asserting our rights and continuing the action or similar action as what we started on Friday, I want everybody to know that this is not the end of anything, but it is indeed probably the beginning of more intense protests, more prolonged protests, until such time as the government sees fit to sit down at a table and negotiate with us in a respectful and meaningful fashion. That is not much to ask for. The only way for there to be peace and for things to move is if we are at a table. What more can we ask for than just a simple table of respectful negotiations? As citizens of this country, as Aboriginal people of this country that have rights, that is not a lot for us to ask for.
I appreciate your time tonight. I thank you very much.
Well, I thank you for calling, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and also to share our perspective with your listeners. It's always a pleasure, sir.
Okay, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
And that was Todd Russell, the leader of the NunatuKavut.